Three spine-chilling true tales of the haunted unexplained terrors revealed EP. 184. The shadows crept closer, wrapping around the old house like fingers grasping for their prey. Lisa's heart pounded as her eyes darted around the dimly lit diner. The innocent chatter of customers faded into a muffled background noise, and in that moment, the air thickened with dread. It had been weeks since she felt any sort of peace, weeks since her son Jake had frightened her with tales of the dark figure watching him from their yard. On a night like any other, just after a flurry of orders, her phone buzzed violently against the counter. The harsh sound jolted her, filling her with a primal instinct to run. "Mom, there's someone here." Each breath of panic in Jake's voice threaded fear into Lisa's veins. She dropped her apron and bolted out the door, terror pulling at her every step. The drive home felt like an eternity. Dark streets loomed like gaping mouths, drawing her into their depths. As she pulled up to their small, aging home, the shadows outside seemed to watch, whispering her name. But when she stepped outside, the yard was empty. Nothing but rustling leaves danced in the night breeze. Anxiety clawed at her, tightening its grip around her chest. Had her imagination run wild again? She shook her head, pushing the thought away. But the dread lingered. Nights turned into a horror movie, where strange noises grew louder, footsteps thudding outside her window, whispers slithering through the walls, chairs mysteriously rearranging themselves, each event taunting her sanity. Jake became a mere shadow of himself, retreating into a cocoon of fear. Lisa's concern escalated. "Please just talk to me," she urged one evening as they sat in the living room. But Jake was lost, eyes glued to his sketchbook, drawing with a trembling hand. And then it happened. He turned the book toward her, revealing a horrid figure, a dark silhouette with sinister, elongated limbs, eyes like hollow pits. Lisa's breath hitched in her throat as her mind raced. She heard stories, urban legends that wove through whispers in the neighborhood. The tale of a creature, a predator that thrived in the shadows, feeding on fear. Could this be what Jake saw? Before she could collect her thoughts, a sharp knock shattered the silence. Hesitation washed over her. Did she even want to open the door? When she did, the neighbor stood there, unkempt and wild-eyed, his voice barely above a whisper. "You need to listen to me." His frantic gaze darted around as if he feared the walls themselves were closing in. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Lisa's heart raced with uncertainty. Could he be trusted? As he spoke of danger lurking within their neighborhood, she felt a cold sweat form on her back. Each word felt like a thread that bound her deeper into a nightmare. As he leaned in, his voice dropped to a chilling whisper. "It's close, closer than you think." Lisa's instincts screamed at her to shut the door, but fear and curiosity clashed violently within her. What if the monster they feared was not just lurking in the dark, but hidden in plain sight, woven into the very fabric of their lives? Shadows grew longer as they strained against the enclosing night. The question loomed, heavy as the silence around them. What if the real horror was only just beginning? Lisa's mind raced as she searched for the right words. "What do you mean?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The neighbor stared at her, wild-eyed and trembling, desperately scanning the darkness behind him. "They're watching. They see everything." He leaned closer, the smell of sweat mingling with fear wafting off him. "At first, they stay hidden, just moving in the corners of your eyes. But soon enough, they come for you. They want your fear." A chill ran down her spine, and Lisa felt the world tilt slightly. She wanted to slam the door and lock her son away from whatever terror stalked them. But an unseen force held her back, entranced by the man's frantic words. "Do you have kids?" he asked abruptly, his tone shifting, eyes boring into hers. She nodded slowly, her pulse quickening. Then you have to protect him. Don't let him be alone. They'll come for him first. He must have seen the disbelief in her eyes. I can help you, he pleaded. I've seen what they can do. Before she could respond, she heard a low, guttural growl vibrating through the air. The sound pierced the suffocating silence like a knife. The neighbor turned, his face paling as the noise intensified, echoing from deep within the shadows. Get inside, now, he yelled, his voice spiraling into pure panic. She needed no further urging. Grabbing Jake's hand, she yanked him towards the house, pushing the door shut behind them, locking it tight as if that small gesture could ward off whatever darkness had crept near. The growl dissolved into silence, leaving an eerie stillness that felt wrong, painfully charged, as though something was lingering just beyond the door. Mom, what is happening? Jake's voice trembled, and he gripped her tighter, clutching the sketchbook like it was a lifeline. Just stay close, she said, her heart hammering in her chest like a war drum. Stay close to me. They huddled in the living room, enveloped in shadows drawn against the faint glow of the streetlight outside. She tried to calm Jake, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. The air felt heavy, thick, as though the room itself had become a living thing, watching, waiting. Suddenly, their unease was shattered by a frantic knock at the door. The neighbor's voice surged from behind it. Let me in. They're here. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. Her instincts screamed at her not to open it. This was the moment of decision. She could either open the door, risking everything for the desperate man outside, or keep it shut and protect her son. But what if he was truly their only salvation? As she stood frozen, the house began to shudder. The walls seemed to pulse with the sound of ratcheting breaths, as if the very fabric of their home was quaking before some unseen entity. And amidst that terrifying cascade of sound, a whisper slithered into her ear, chilling her to the bone. Let us in the dark figure she thought was only in Jake's imagination began to form in the corner of her vision, standing just outside the window, its shadow blending seamlessly with the night. What had she unknowingly invited into their lives? Her instincts pushed her toward the door, but could she trust the man outside? The choice hung thick in the air, pregnant with danger. The darkness continued to rear its head around them, and she was about to discover that nightmares didn't just come from what lurked in the shadows, they sometimes manifested from the very people you thought you knew. Unable to think, she moved toward the door, trembling fingers at the knob. And before she could pull it back, the knocking stopped. Instead, a hissing voice reverberated through the wood. Your fear feeds us. Open the door. The words hung in the air, heavy, menacing. What happens when you give in to fear? Would they become prey? Or could fear become their weapon? Either way, it was too late to turn back now. With a deep breath, she whispered into the darkness. What are you? What she discovered next would shake the very foundation of her understanding. The room echoed in a chilling silence, wrapping around Lisa like a thick fog. She could feel Jake's tiny fingers digging into her arm, his body trembling against her side. Shadows danced in the corners, twisting and turning, almost as if mocking her fear. What had she just awoken? Mom, Jake's whisper broke through her thoughts, a tight knot of dread coiling in her stomach. The air hung heavy, thick with a suffocating dread that made it hard to think. What if we let him in? The uncertainty in his voice stung deeper than any physical wound. Did she really want to find out what was lurking beyond their door? Did she want to risk everything for a stranger? Listen to me, Jake, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. We can't open that door. We can't. But as if fueling her doubt, a soft thump against the door silenced her. It felt almost like a heartbeat, echoing in tandem with her own erratic pulse. The hissing voice returned, cold and sinister. We will not be denied. You will let us in. The whispers coiled around the room, seeping into her mind. Images flashed Jake alone, the things creeping closer, shadows that moved against his will. Her heart raced. No, you're not getting in. A low growl rolled from the depths of the unseen, cutting through her resolve. It grew louder, more fervent, every sound resembling a spine-crushing roar. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the house into deeper darkness. The whispers softened, almost fading away, before returning with a rustling undertone, as if something large was moving right outside the window. Lisa felt the hair on her arms stand on end. "Mom!" Jake cried, clutching her tighter. Tears welled in his eyes, reflecting the faint light. "I'm scared." She knelt down to his level, forcing a calmness she did not feel. "I know, sweetheart. I know. Just stay by my side. Remember the flashlight we keep in the kitchen? We'll grab it and shine it into the dark. We have to show them we're not afraid." As she spoke, another thud reverberated through the door, this one more forceful, resonating within her bones. Terror moved like a ripple across her skin. But she had to stay strong for Jake. "Stay here," she urged, darting for the kitchen, her heart racing. The flashlight lay right where she remembered. Grabbing it, she felt a brief sense of triumph before glancing back at Jake. But he was gone. Panic surged through her, biting and raw. "Jake?" she called, dread curling around her like a snake. "Jake!" The silence that followed twisted her insides. She rushed back into the living room, the flashlight illuminating shadows, revealing nothing but whispers in the night. Her breath came in short gasps as she scanned the room. "Jake!" And then she heard it again, a soft, sinister giggle, muffled but unmistakable. It came from the hallway, a place where shadows breathed life. She turned, heart thundering, and started toward the sound, the flashlight beam trembling. But as she moved, the door shuddered violently, rattling in its frame. With a shattering crack, something large slammed against it, the force shaking the very foundation of their home. Lisa froze with every ounce of courage. She edged closer to the hallway, drawn by the laughter. But an icy chill swept through her, a warning like the flapping of wings in the dark. The laughter echoed, morphing into a chorus of voices, each drawing nearer. "Lisa, Lisa," they sang, weaving around her, a spell of dreadful familiarity. Just as she felt her heart about to burst, the ground beneath her shifted. The shadows morphed, moving, alive. Then, a figure stepped from the darkness, eyes glowing like embers. "Let me tell you a secret," it hissed, twisting into the light. What horrifying truth awaited her within the shadows? Would she find Jake or uncover something far worse? The figure loomed larger, its form shifting unnaturally, as if combing in and out of the very fabric of the shadows. Lisa's breath caught in her throat, cold and thick, blocking any scream or plea. The creature's eyes flickered, drowning the room in an otherworldly glow that illuminated the walls, revealing graffiti of fierce scratches and marks, the remnants of struggles past. "Are you afraid of the dark?" taunted, a voice like ice carving flesh. With every word, the lights flickered again, pulse-like, casting a brief glow that distorted the creature's features into grotesque visages, smiling mouths, elongated limbs, a shifting nightmare that threatened to swallow her whole. Fear gripped Lisa's chest tighter. Where was Jake? Where's my son? She didn't mean to shout, but the words burst out, echoing with desperation. The creature tilted its head, a hideous twist of curiosity and amusement. "Seek him," it whispered, the hissing deepening, wrapping around her like a noose. "He is not lost but hiding hidden from you." "Jake," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "Where are you?" The laughter returned, a discordant symphony echoing from within the walls, mocking her anguish. The dim light pulsed, revealing a door at the end of the hallway, a door she could hardly remember seeing before. Something stirred deep within her, an unexplainable urge to run toward it. She turned her back on the creature, her only focus to reach the door and find Jake, praying to whatever darkness was twisting their fates that she wasn't too late. She hurried down the hall. The wooden floor creaked beneath her feet, a reminder of the horrors that lurked just out of sight. With each step, the whispers strengthened, clinging to her thoughts. "You shouldn't go there, you shouldn't." But Lisa forced the words away, thrashing against the worry with a determination fueled by sheer panic. She reached the door, her hand resting against the cold wood. It felt oddly warm, pulsing with a life of its own. "Jake!" She pressed her ear against it, desperate for any sign of him. Yet all she heard was the oppressive silence, somehow deeper than the quiet that had engulfed the house. Pushing the door open, it creaked loudly, an unwelcoming welcome. The flash of her light revealed a small, cramped room, old toys scattered across the floor and dust-covered shelves lined with forgotten memories. And in the corner, a little figure huddled, trembling. Jake! Relief washed over her as she rushed into the room. But as she reached for him, a dissonant laugh erupted, shattering her moment of hope. Did you think you could save him? A voice sneered, slithering from the shadows like smoke. The moment froze. The light flickered again, exposing the creature standing behind her son, shadows wrapping around it like a cloak of despair. Its smile stretched wider, revealing jagged teeth glistening in the dim light. A chilling realization flooded Lisa. The creature wasn't just lurking. It had been playing with them, pulling strings like a puppeteer. And in this game of horrors, she was the willing pawn. "Help me, Mom!" Jake cried, reaching out. The creature laughed, pulling him closer, shadows twisting around his small frame, pulling him down like quicksand. "No!" Lisa screamed, throwing herself toward them, feeling her heart pound like thunder. Clawing for Jake, she plunged into the darkness, the creature's laughter drowning out her frantic thoughts. But something seized her wrist, jerking her back as the walls began to close in. "You were warned," the creature hissed. "We will not be denied. The darkness claims those who dare tread too far." She fought against it, but the darkness swallowed her screams, an unbearable pressure wrapping around her as despair clawed its way into her heart. Lisa gasped, reeling back, and suddenly found herself standing in the hallway again. The door behind her stood closed, the pang of Jake's cries echoing faintly in her mind. Desperation morphed into rage. "I will find him," she roared, turning to face the figure in the shadows, no longer minding the distance, no longer fearing what it could do. She reached for the flashlight, wielding it like a weapon. "Let go of my son." But the voice swelled once more, a tide of dark amusement rolling against her. What if the truth is he's never really been here? Darkness danced on the edges of her vision, waiting to consume. Would she uncover the dread secrets shrouding her son's fate? Or was it too late to save him from the clutches of the unknown? The air felt heavy, the kind of weight that pressed against her chest, suffocating. Lisa's mind raced. Were those whispers real? Was the figure toying with her? Or was Jake really gone? She shook her head, refusing to succumb to despair. She had to act. "Jake!" she shouted again, forcing her voice to rise above her clanging nerves. She squinted into the darkness, scanning every corner, every shadow. Her flashlight flickered dangerously, but she gripped it tighter, feeling the pulse of her heartbeat speed up. "Where are you?" The vulnerability of her voice betrayed her, echoing emptily. She could feel the creature's presence, lurking, feeding off her terror, waiting for her to fully unravel. Ignoring the doubt clawing at her mind, she rushed down the hallway, shouting Jake's name as if it could shatter the oppressive silence around her. The walls reverberated, mocking her cries. Each footstep felt like a countdown, urgency transforming into dread. What if she was running to her demise? Then, she reached the end of the hallway where a chilling stillness wrapped her like a shroud. The door loomed before her, unyielding yet inviting in a way that made her stomach churn. Gritting her teeth, she yanked it open again. The air was stale, a bone-deep cold radiating from within, sending shivers cascading down her spine. Inside, the room was still, toys lay scattered like remnants of a forgotten childhood. But Jake was nowhere to be found. Only the shadows stretched and coiled, whispering secrets she couldn't understand. "Breathe, Lisa," she muttered, fighting against the rising panic. Tension gripped her throat. Where could he be? The room felt alive, walls closing in as if the shadows themselves tightened their grip around her. Suddenly, a soft giggle drifted through the air, slicing through her fear. "Jake?" The sound sent a tremor through her. Cautiously, she turned toward the sound. The closet stood ajar, a sliver of darkness spilling out, breathing like a living entity. "Jake!" With one swift motion, she flung the door open, her heart stuttering. What she saw made her recoil. Glowing eyes stared back at her from within the dark, a pair of familiar, innocent eyes that twisted her stomach. "Mommy!" Jake squeaked, his voice high and cracked. But his figure seemed oddly distorted, entangled in shadow and light. He was there, but somehow not entirely. "Jake!" She reached for him, but the moment her hand connected, her vision exploded with darkness. The laughter swelled, ringing like a bell through a fog, insidiously sharp. Suddenly, she was yanked backward, the shadows wrapping around her again, squeezing her breath away. "No, I'm not losing him," she cried out, fighting against the encroaching darkness. "Stay with us," the creature's voice purred, wrapping around her like a wicked lullaby. She pushed back, feeling the weight of it pressing. "Get away from him!" Rage surged, and she tore herself free. Moments blurred as she lunged back into the shedding shadows, reaching for Jake. But just as her fingers brushed his cheek, darkness flooded her vision, and the room spun. Everything was wrong. Jake wasn't in the closet anymore, no familiar sound of his breath, just the heavy silence. The room felt empty, a hollow shell consumed by despair. "No!" she screamed, heart hammering against her ribs. She spun around, desperately searching for any glimpse of him, fighting against every whisper that taunted her. "I will find you." The silence pressed down, thick and oppressive, until the echo of her own desperation became deafening. "What if the truth is that he's never really been here?" A voice taunted, echoing through the empty space, riddled with darkness. Lisa staggered back, the realization snaking through her mind. Had she lost her son to the shadows? Was it still possible to unmask the creature's game? Panic set in as she felt the walls closing tighter around her, the darkness curling around her legs like a predator waiting to pounce. It lured her in, and she hesitated. In her gut, a seed of hope still flickered. She needed to uncover the truth before the darkness enveloped them both. "Tell me where he is," she hissed through gritted teeth, confronting the ominous figure sprawling across the room. "Close your eyes, Lisa. Maybe it's time to discover who's really hiding," it answered, flashing a disfigured grin as the lights dimmed, plunging her into suffocating blackness. What awaited Lisa in that consuming void? Would she uncover the truth at last, or would the darkness claim her as its own? Lisa's heart thundered in her chest as the last glimmer of light vanished, enveloping her in pitch-black despair. She focused on the creature's voice, the words echoing in a twisted harmony that sent chills down her spine. "Close your eyes," it whispered again, and against her better judgment, she squeezed them shut. Darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating like drowning in a void. Her rational mind screamed to resist, yet something deeper urged her to listen. A flicker of Jake's laughter danced through her memory, brightening the dark corners of her mind. "Jake!" she cried, desperation lacing her voice. "I'm coming for you." In response, a wave of cold washed over her, so frigid it felt like icy fingers tracing her skin. Startled, she opened her eyes again, but nothing changed. The darkness mocked her, swirling in patterns that seemed almost alive. "Foolish girl," the creature sighed, indifference dripping from its tone. "You think you can save him? What if he's found a better place?" Those words, cruel and taunting, sliced through her frustration, igniting a new fire in her chest. "Shut up," she screamed back, challenging the darkness that sought to coax her fears into acceptance. Something shifted in the stillness. The air crackled with tension, a tangible sensation that prickled against her skin. The whispers grew louder, an insistent hum wrapping around her mind, each one more insidious than the last. Stay with us, forget him, no," she shouted, plunging deeper into the abyss, searching with furious conviction. She could feel somewhere amidst the black, a tug at her heart, an undeniable bond pulling her forward. As if sensing her resolve, the darkness flared, and a figure started to materialize before her. Its form twisted and distorted, a grotesque parody of her son standing in the void. "Mommy?" it chirped, but there was a chill in that voice that paralyzed her. "Jake?" She breathed, hope mingling with dread. "Mommy, help me," the plea echoed. But this Jake didn't sound right. It was mechanical, barely human. Yet, there was an urgency that mirrored her own, pulling her to him. Before she could reach out again, the creature surged, ripping through the void like a storm. "You think you know love? You only know fear. You'll never find him." The atmosphere thickened, transforming into a suffocating fog that clung to her skin. She gritted her teeth, her nails digging into her palms, grounding herself against the chaotic sensations threatening to unravel her sanity. "Tell me the truth," she screamed into the void, her voice wavering but fierce. The darkness howled with laughter, the kind that echoed with a profound emptiness. "The truth, Lisa? What you fear most is already here. You live in the lies you tell yourself." With that, the fog parted slightly, revealing a mirror-like surface beneath her feet. Cautiously, she approached it, her breath hitching at her reflection. The face staring back was not just her own. It flickered, and in between the reflections, she saw Jake lost and alone, trapped behind a veil of shadows. No, no. Rage surged through her. She wouldn't be a prisoner of her own mind. "I will save you." She stepped closer to the mirror, reaching out, feeling a surge of warmth from the other side. Just as her fingers brushed the surface, the figure twisted, a nightmare thrust into life. "You cannot escape the reality I control." She felt herself being pulled yanked away from the reflective surface, her cries swallowed by the creature's monstrous laughter. The darkness roared, sheer power thrumming through her bones as she realized the truth. Every moment spent in fear fed the darkness more. Lisa gasped, her mind racing. Could she sever the bond with fear? The laughter faded, a growl echoing in its place as she stood on the precipice of discovery. "Now you're ready to see," the creature hissed, as the shadows whirled faster, becoming a cyclone of agonizing tension. What truth awaited her if she plunged into that chaos? Would she face the darkness to find her son? Or would she lose herself to the shadows forever? Lisa was yanked backward, pulled from the warmth of the mirror's surface into the frigid darkness. Panic gripped her heart. She thought about Jake, about the urgency in his voice, the way he had always relied on her. "I have to get to him," she murmured, the words falling into the void like whispers in a cavern. "Let the fear consume you," the creature growled, its presence looming not just around her, but within the cracks of her mind. She felt tendrils of despair wrapping around her, squeezing tight as if trying to siphon her hope away. Each pulse of her heart echoed with the promise of loss. "Get away from me," she shouted, squaring her shoulders. The darkness shimmered and receded slightly, revealing a path lined with shadows resembling faceless figures, all watching, waiting. They were her fears given life, visions of failure, of hopelessness. With grim determination, she took a step forward. The figures swayed, their hollow eyes boring into her, urging her to stop. "You'll only find pain," one rasped, its voice like nails dragging across glass. "Pain is better than nothing," she cried out, continuing to move. The figures began to swirl around her, encircling her like a storm. "I won't drown in your lies." Fighting the suffocating sensation, Lisa dug deep, picturing Jake's innocent face, the sweetness of his laughter. The more she thought of him, the more vibrant her resolve became. The shadows recoiled, disoriented by her defiance. "Foolish woman, do you believe you can break free?" The creature interrupted. Its once ambiguous voice now carried clarity, a sinister cadence that filled her with dread. It knew her weakness. The fear she held was the tether she used to find Jake. But that fear had also been her prison. With every ounce of will, she began to shed the weight of her doubts, each step forward lightening her burden. A flicker of light emerged from the very heart of the shadows, casting silhouettes that wavered and danced in protest. "No!" They hissed in unison, the sound reverberating against the walls of her mind. In that fleeting glow, she glimpsed Jake's true form, clear and unhindered by the dark. "Mommy!" he called, reaching out. His figure shifted, breaking through the layers of gloom as hope sparked to life inside her. The brightness expanded, threatening to drown the darkness. "Jake!" She lunged forward, but the shadows coiled around her ankles, dragging her back. Deep breaths now filled her lungs. The chilling grasp of fear faded as she shouted, "I will not let you take him." Every word was a battle cry, a rejection of the dark's embrace. The creatures howled, their cacophony a raw wound ripping through the air. They twisted and contorted, morphing into grotesque images of lost hopes, friends forgotten, moments squandered, dreams buried in an abyss. Lisa's heart raced, her resolve unwavering. "I am stronger than you." The cyclone of terror erupted, flinging echoes of Jake's laughter around her, reinforcing her will. She could see the path forward, clearer than ever. "I am his mother. I will find him, no matter what." The shadows faltered, trembling as the light from her conviction pushed them back. In that instant, she realized the truth. Her love was the anchor in this barren sea of oblivion, and the creature thrived on the despair she now refused to give. But just as she reached out toward the brilliant light, something crashed around her, sending waves of darkness spiraling out of control. The creature's voice rang out, raw with fury. "You cannot escape me, Lisa. I will find you again." Then, silence fell, smothering the chaos as the light dimmed. Was it over? Had she succeeded or merely bought herself time? The ground beneath her trembled, and in the stillness, a chilling whisper drifted through the air. "Next time, you will fail." Panic surged anew as the darkness began to close in again. Was it a trick? A reflection of her deepest fears? Lisa braced herself, knowing the battle was far from finished. What awaited her in the next dark corner? What horrors would she have to face to save her son? The air grew heavy, thick with sorrow and dread. Lisa staggered, feeling the remnants of the shadows pulling at her. Every heartbeat echoed with the truth of her situation. She was lost in a world that wanted to consume her. She took a deep breath, forcing strength past the tightening grip of despair. "I won't let you win," she gasped, her resolve hardening with each puff of chilled air. But the shadows shrieked in response, voices blending into an unbearable cacophony. "You cannot fight what you cannot see," they chorused, their ghastly tones merging with laughter that chilled her bones. Each sound felt like a dagger driving deeper into her psyche, igniting her deepest fears. Her head spun as she searched her dark surroundings for a way out, a way back to Jake. Suddenly, a piercing scream sliced through the darkness. Lisa's heart leapt into her throat. "Jake!" she shouted, fear clawing at her insides. She struggled to find the source, fearing it was too late. Hope dangled by a thread, fraying more with every passing moment. The shadows shrank back, forming a pathway. And there, at the end, a flicker of light emerged, a sliver of brightness that called out to her, its soft glow beckoning her to follow. Hesitation gripped her, but that cry she couldn't ignore it. With a surge of adrenaline, she dashed forward, heart racing with both fear and hope as she ran. The shadows writhed, desperate to ensnare her once more. "You're running toward destruction," one hissed, its voice dripping with malice. "He is lost. You will lose him." "No," she screamed back, battling through waves of darkness. "He is alive. I can feel him." With every step, the shadows clawed at her, trying to drag her down into their cold grasp. She glanced back, her heart pounding furiously at the sight of the twisted faces warning her, jeering at her determination. "Child of the light, blinded by your ignorance," they crooned, their twisted mouths curving in illusory smiles. "You'll only find madness in your pursuit." But Lisa was resolute. She reached for the light, stretching her fingers toward the faint glow that seemed impossibly far. It flickered and dimmed with each defeated breath she took. "Please, Jake. I'm coming," she pleaded, fighting against the darkness wrapping around her throat like a noose. Just as her fingertips grazed the edge of salvation, a wave of cold washed over her, choking the light and plunging Lisa back into despair. "You're not meant to escape us, Lisa." The creature coiled in the shadows, now closer than ever, its voice a grave whisper slithering through every crevice of her mind. "The price for your love will be steep, and soon you shall know true fear." Lisa faltered, caught between the dark and the faint light. Dread thickened, creeping up her spine. The din of whispered failures echoed in her mind, wrapping around her like chains. "Jake, forgive me," she breathed, wrestling with her confidence as shadows tightened their grip. "Mommy!" The cry erupted from deep within the void, filled with longing and laced with panic. Lisa's heart surged again as she scrambled toward it, desperation igniting her spirit. She could feel the bond vibrating between them, an unseen tether pulling her forward. Then, just as she thought she could break free, the darkness shifted, morphing into different shades of her worst memories, moments of uncertainty, isolation, and sheer terror. "You're nothing without us, Lisa," they sneered, ready to swallow her whole. The path blurred, shadows threatening to swallow her. But in that moment, she caught sight of Jake once more, his little hands reaching, struggling against chains that bound him. "He needs me." Panic coursed through her as she dug deep, summoning the courage to resist. The shadows pulsed, sensing her defiance. They seemed to whisper a dark promise: "You'll never find him. He's ours now." And as the last flicker of light seemed about to vanish, she didn't know whether it was the end or whether she'd finally reach her son. But the thought of losing him consumed her. "Keep calling to him," she screamed, fueled by a reckless hope. But what she didn't know was that the darkness was only just beginning to weave its trap. What would it cost her to truly find him again? With every word, every heartbeat, the room quaked with the mounting horror of what lay ahead. The air shifted. One moment, it was thick with despair. The next, it crackled with something darker, more sinister. Lisa felt the chilling grip of shadows tighten around her wrists, almost like icy hands clasping down, pulling her away from hope. She could still hear Jake's voice, faint and desperate, but the specter of the shadows devoured the echoes of his name, twisting her resolve into something brittle. Lisa's eyes darted around, struggling to locate him. "Jake, hold on," she cried, her voice tinged with desperation. But the darkness yawned wide, swallowing her words as if they were nothing. The flicker of light, a beacon, shimmered still ahead. It pulsed like a heartbeat, promising safety, but the closer she drew, the heavier the air became, each breath a labor. It felt as if the shadows conspired against her, their whispers growing louder, hissing horrible truths. "Why would he call for you when you failed him? You've always failed." "No," she shouted, shaking her head violently, trying to dispel the tormenting thoughts. Her feet dug into the ground, unwilling to let despair be the end of her journey. She could feel the tug of her memories ensnaring her. Images of arguments, of broken promises, of all the times she wasn't enough flooded back with the shadows, feeding the darkness around her. The light dimmed. Just when she thought she would reach it, it flickered and waned, retreating into the abyss of despair. "You are unworthy," came a voice, slithering through the dark. "Return to us, and we shall forgive you." Something twisted in Lisa's gut. The shadows grew bolder, surging toward her. They wrapped around her legs, dragging her down. She felt her heart pounding harder, as if it might burst from sheer terror. Jake's cries morphed into guttural screams. "Mommy!" came again, but this time, it shook her to the bone. "Jake!" She pushed forward against the grip of darkness, clawing her way through sheer will. A hidden rage bubbled within her, stronger than the fear. "Stop it! I won't give in." The shadows recoiled briefly, sensing her defiance. "Your fight is futile," they hissed, the laughter in their voices rising like a dreadful crescendo. "We are eternal." But Lisa charged into the chaos. Every ounce of her being screamed for Jake. She could feel him, his small hands grasping at chains, struggling against the weight of helplessness. The light pulsed more fiercely now, resonating with her conviction. "Hold on, baby, I'm coming," she shouted, lunging toward the soft glow. With every step, the chains that bound him ruptured, sparks of light cascading around them. Yet doubt gnawed at her. Was she too late? Had the shadows already claimed him? As she closed in, a cold gust surged around her, and the darkness shrieked with rage. You think you can save him? You'll only doom yourselves further. In that moment of uncertainty, she could feel Jake, his warmth aching for her, his spirit entwined with hers in a delicate dance of love and fear. And then, the shadows morphed, shifting into the faces of the past: her mother, her friends, all the ones she felt she had lost. You've abandoned them, they cried in unison, reflecting her failures. They need you to know. I am not like you, she shouted back. The barrier between her and the light cracked, all her emotions swirling violently. The very ground beneath her feet trembled. If she could just reach the light, just reach Jake. Suddenly, a heavy silence blanketed the air. The cacophony of shadows hushed, as if all were holding their collective breath. Then came a whisper, cold and raking. You will never escape this place. And just as the light seemed to hover within grasp, shadows erupted from all sides, consuming the fleeting hope. Lisa stumbled back, heart racing, drowning in their overwhelming darkness. The bond with Jake felt nearly severed. What price would she pay to save him? The looming dread pressed down like an unyielding weight. All she could think was that she had to try harder than ever before. As shadows darted closer, promises of eternal torment whispered against her skin. The light, flickering dangerously, just as hope dimmed. A chilling thought crossed her mind: would she lose herself in the process of saving him? What if the cost was more than she could bear? The air crackled again. Then, from the depths of the shadows, a new voice slithered to life, a familiar tone that sent ice through her veins. Mommy, are you there? And that was when Lisa realized the horror she had yet to face. The shadows danced excitedly, pulsing with a sinister energy that wrapped around Lisa's heart like a vice. Jake? She gasped, desperation tightening her throat. The familiar tone tangled with the whispers of the deep, calling out to her. But where was he? Where was her baby boy? The darkness rippled, contorting into shapes of her darkest memories and fears, each one a visceral echo of all she believed she had lost. Lisa clenched her fists, shaking her head. No, you will not take him from me. She pushed forward, fueled by an almost feral determination to find Jake. Each step felt like wading through water, but a flicker of warmth pulsed through the shadows, guiding her like a lighthouse in a storm. She bolted past the obstructions, the whispers clawing at her sanity, urging her to listen to the despair. You're not strong enough, they hissed, their voices dripping with disdain. But she pressed on, heart racing, every ounce of will aimed at tearing down the veil that separated her from her son. Jake, hold on, she shouted, her voice erupting from her lips like a warrior's battle cry, unwavering against the torrent of shadows. Mommy's coming. The room vibrated around her, and in that moment she caught a glimpse of him, his small figure at the threshold of her vision. Writhing against shadowy chains, with every ounce of strength, she barreled forward, her breath quickening. Help me! Jake's small, terrified voice sparked raw urgency inside her, pushing her further and further toward him. I'm right here, baby. Just as she reached the flicker of light, it flickered erratically, casting chaotic shadows that slithered toward her, threatening to swallow her whole. For a second, panic thudded in her chest. She stumbled back, but instinct kicked in. She had faced fear. She would face the unknown for him with a roar. She surged forward again, dislodging the tendrils of darkness that wrapped around her limbs. Let him go. She could see him now, his innocent face twisted in pain, the chains glimmering around him like vile serpents. Each passing moment felt like a decade, freezing her resolve into stone. Then, the creature emerged, grinning wide, its elongated limbs stretching impossibly. You are making this so entertaining, Lisa, it crooned, eyes glistening with delight. But you cannot win. Your boy is lost to the shadows. No, Lisa screamed, pushing through the veil of despair, anger igniting like wildfire. He is not lost, and I am not afraid. Everything inside her surged with a blazing force, the warmth of a mother's love, the fierce bond that could not be shattered. The ground trembled beneath her, the darkness reeling back momentarily, its power wavering against her light. The truth, Lisa, the creature hissed, circling her like a predator ready to pounce. What if the truth is he was never real? The words wrapped around her like chains, tightening the trap. No, he is my son. You're lying. Yet, the shadows grew restless, swirling with her doubt, mocking her fiercest memories. Each flash of dim light flickered and dimmed, closing her in again. But then something shifted. A surge of clarity washed over her, flooding through the chaos. The love for her son eclipsed her fears, illuminating a way through. You don't get to win, she bellowed, voice crackling with the force of an unyielding storm. What is fear without love to fight for? The darkness gasped, withdrawing slightly as she advanced. You have no power, the creature snarled, growing frantic. I have all the power, Lisa responded, undeterred. Your reign ends now. She lunged toward Jake, arms stretching wide as she felt the warmth of their bond, the energy pushing back against the malevolent shadows. Mommy, please, Jake cried, every syllable tinged with urgency. Lisa could feel the chains loosening, the light burning brighter with her will. With one final surge, she grasped Jake's hands, pulling him from the void of shadows into her embrace. He was real. He was alive. Tears streamed down her face as they collided, the warmth of her love sparking a blinding light that rippled through the darkness. The force split the shadows as they wailed in a chorus of anguish. No, you cannot take him. The walls shook violently, an unholy cacophony breaking against their bond. But Lisa held on tighter, grounding herself in the truth of their love, unfazed by the malevolence around her. Together, she whispered to Jake, locked in their shared warmth. We're stronger together. Suddenly, a brilliant light erupted, showering them in a warm glow, banishing the shadows until there was nothing left but the echoes of a fading nightmare. The creature howled in retreat, its shape collapsing like a shadow under the sunrise. As the brightness enveloped them, Lisa opened her eyes to find herself in their living room, clutching Jake tightly against her chest. The shadows were gone, replaced with the quiet hum of their safe home. Lisa's heart raced, taking in the small details, the fading daylight spilling through the window, the soft rustle of leaves outside. Mommy? Jake's voice trembled, innocent and familiar. Lisa gazed down at him, seeing not the shadows, but the vibrant life that was her precious son. And in that moment, every fiber of her being was filled with overwhelming gratitude. I'm here, baby, she replied, pulling him closer as tears streamed down her cheeks. They were safe. The nightmare was over. With every hug, every whisper of reassurance, Lisa promised herself that this bond would never be shaken again. And though she knew the darkness could return, they faced it together. Together, they had won. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more spine-tingling stories like this. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm. Your support really makes a difference. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this wild journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic conclusion. Join the adventure, we're just getting started.